Take you back to load shedding because it is day 6 of rolling blackouts, and the National Union of Mineworkers is not convinced that Eskom's story of rainy weather affecting the quality of the coal is as to blame as we are being told it is. The union's energy sector coordinator, Mashego, is my guest this evening. Mr. Mashego, very good evening to you. Thank you for coming in. So we are hearing this repeated message that the issue of wet coal is what has led to some of the dramatic developments as far as load shedding is concerned in the past week. But you don't think that it is quite at the level that it's portrayed to be?
Yeah, it is basically poor management. We don't think that the issue of wet coal could be a big issue. Wet coal could be sheltered easily, which was the case in the past. We don't understand why Eskom is no more doing that, because we are aware that wet coal has been a problem in 2008 at Arnott Power Station. It is still a problem even today. Why can't we put the coal under shelter? Simple things. So it's simple things that management needs to do, so that they can avoid load shedding, that they can avoid damaging plants, because the wet coal which moves into the boilers affect the boiler. We have learned this at Hendrina Power Station. In Hendrina Power Station, you've got a conveyor belt that is carrying slurry into the boilers. So that affected the unit. That's why Hendrina today, it's having more than 5 units that has been shut down.
A lot of people are quite fed up with Eskom and its handling of the load shedding crisis, so much so that President Cyril Ramaphosa has decided to cut short his trip to Egypt to come and deal with this issue. He's meeting with the board. As we've been saying all night, this is to happen on Wednesday. What approach should he take in that meeting tomorrow to make sure that things move in a way that is satisfactory both for ordinary consumers and for an economy that so desperately needs to have consistent power supply in order for us to grow, create jobs, and the other things that concern you as a labor organization?
We don't think that there is much that Cyril could do. The reality of the matter is that it is government policy in 2008 where they stopped constructing power stations. So we are in this problem today. What worries us most as the NUM is that when you look at the 2019 IRP, it only speaks about all the other technologies, but it doesn't talk about the replacement of the power stations that we are shutting down. We don't have a replacement. What we want as South Africans, we want base load. We don't want renewable energy. I mean, it is not renewable energy that we really need. We need base load to ensure that we are protected from load shedding. Without base load, we will not succeed in the country. One other thing that I can mention is that countries like China and India, they are building power stations, strengthening their base load. We are not doing that. I don't understand why we don't strengthen base load.
Minister Kweta Mantashe is also speaking today. His office is saying that he's going to begin a process to try and get us more power, including possibly renewables and energy from the IPPs, which Labour has not been very happy with since that initial announcement 3 years ago that we're going to go quite big on them. Your reaction?
Renewable power, we, as the NUM, we support it. But the issue that we are talking about here is replacing base load in terms of the power stations that we are closing. We don't see any attempt from the leadership to say, let's build more power stations. They are not doing anything about that. The only interesting is renewable energy. Renewable energy will not solve the problems of power stations.
Explain, you keep referring to this base load issue, which is where you say we should be focusing. Explain that to the average South African who's not in the energy space, who's listening to this conversation, but wants Eskom to come right.
Base load comes only through power stations like nuclear, like coal-fired power stations. Those can guarantee base load. Wind and solar are not reliable. Wind and solar are not available at the time we need them. They come in the afternoon, at night or in the middle of the morning. So they are not reliable, they are not base load. What we need is base load. That forms the base for electricity supply. So you need a power station, you need a nuclear power station, you need a coal-fired power station to ensure that we have base load. We will then stabilize the issue of load shedding. So without base load, we will not succeed in this country. In fact, projections are indicating that we might have load shedding until 2025. Yes.
And that's been the constant warning, hasn't it? Because even yesterday when we got the news of stage 6, we went over a few things. Economists saying that, in fact, for this immediate period alone, Eskom needs to come clean and perhaps declare a period of about 6 to 8 months of regular load shedding. Why is that not happening?
Load shedding is a pain for all South Africans. We don't think that we have to go the direction of load shedding. We believe that we must maintain our boilers, we must maintain our turbine to make sure that we have base load that we really need so much.
Are you confident that the people in charge and overseeing Eskom are the right hands to lead us out of this crisis?
We are worried specifically with the direction that is being taken by the minister, Pravin. We don't think that Pravin and the board are people that we can trust in terms of helping South Africans out of these problems. They have failed. They came into Eskom saying that they will stabilize generation. They have not. What they did is destabilize generation. That's why we have so much load shedding. And this load shedding, in fact, when we had it in March for 30 days, we spent 66 billion just to pay for diesel, to run the diesel plant. I'm not sure how much we are paying for the past 5 days and how much will we pay for the other days. We're spending money that Eskom doesn't have.
I want to ask you then on the minister and the current board, because when they speak, what you hear a lot is that what they are dealing with now are the after effects of almost a decade of corruption and looting at Eskom at the very top, and the capture of the entity itself, which has led it to the crisis where it's over 400 billion rand in the red as far as debt is concerned. No one wants to lend it money. Are you sympathetic to their position?
You as a citizen, you have never seen or heard any power station worker or manager or board member being arrested for corruption and looting. It has never happened. How will we trust such a situation? Let me tell you and the listeners at home that looting is still continuing. As I speak to you, there is looting that is going to come in the form of battery storage. The one that Pravin is talking about, it is already on the eyes of looters. This thing to say that unbundling will be hated by looters will not work. Unbundling doesn't change anything. The government should focus on base load and forget about all these other things. Then we will stabilize Eskom. We will save Eskom. But at the rate at which we are going, we will not save Eskom.
Mr. Mashego, thank you so much for coming in tonight.